Welcome back to another episode of the What We're Watching podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Jenny, and today we're talking about The Parent Trap.
The Lindsay Lohan version.
The only version.
The only version, I know.
I love this movie so much. You watched this recently, didn't you?
I did, like a month ago for fun, when I was just on my movie kick. I didn't have any shows to watch. Now I feel overwhelmed by the amount of reality TV I'm watching, but a month ago I had nothing, and so I was just cruising through all these old favorites, and this was one of them. It's such a good movie.
I love this movie so much, and I loved it as a kid. I loved baby Lindsay Lohan in this. She was so good. And honestly, it holds up.
I was just going to say that. It really holds up. It's still a really good movie. And this one I think you can watch on Disney+.
So before we get into the episode, we have one final update on our February review challenge, where for every written review on Apple Podcasts, we matched you with a rom-com or a Galentine's movie. Powell's Like to Party said, "The pod I've been dreaming of. Such a fun, easy listen. I'm a major millennial, and this pod is perfect for my morning walks with my little one. So pleasant, and love hearing all the fun facts about all my favorite movies so far. Definitely a go-to listen when needing a pick-me-up. Now, my recommendation for you is the movie Sleepover. Also, Megan sounds exactly like a calm Anna Kendrick, and I can't unhear it." Okay, first of all, thank you so much, and thank you for giving us a recommendation. Megan couldn't record these reviews with me, but she was honored by your Anna Kendrick comment, and she picked one of her all-time favorite movies for you, which is What to Expect When You're Expecting, partially because you mentioned going on walks with your little one, and partially because it has Anna Kendrick in it, of course. For those who haven't seen it, it's a comedy about 5 couples whose lives are turned upside down by the difficulties and surprises of parenthood. It also stars Cameron Diaz, Elizabeth Banks, J-Lo, Chris Rock, and Dennis Quaid, who we're going to talk about in this episode. I hope you enjoy the watch or the rewatch. Thank you for the review. And then our last review comes from Caro Dean. It says, "The What We're Watching podcast is the pod drop I'm most excited for every single week. Megan and Jenny are witty, uplifting, and bring a lot of BTS info to the table. I love their reviews of these nostalgic shows and movies. They have the best picks, and you can even weigh in on Instagram polls of what they could cover next. My favorite part is being filled in on all the tea sipping I missed out on back in the 2000s. Did we even call it that way back in the day? The pod girlies always come prepared with the details. Who was rumored to be cast, the secret relationships, showrunner and studio drama, and set decisions and locations. They've both mentioned experience with acting and writing classes. As a super busy and on-the-go mom, I love being able to escape into a familiar and relaxing topic while driving around or doing the dishes. I love that I don't feel like I have to rewatch the show or movie if I don't have time, because I get enough from them to jog my memory. Or their chat makes me so enthusiastic I have to watch it again. I find myself wishing I was right there with them in the conversation, adding in my own 2 cents. Can't wait for next Wednesday. Thanks, Megan and Jenny." Oh my gosh, thank you so much for taking the time to write that. That was so thoughtful. The movie Megan picked for you is The Other Woman. It's about a woman who discovers her boyfriend is married, and so she teams up with his wife and another woman that he's having an affair with to get revenge on him. It stars Cameron Diaz again, Leslie Mann, and Kate Upton. We thought it'd be perfect for you because you said so many nice things about us, and this movie is very much about supporting other women, so I hope you enjoy. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate all of your written reviews this month, and we hope you liked it. Now let's get back to The Parent Trap.
So the logline for this movie is, identical twins Annie and Hallie, separated at birth and each raised by one of their biological parents, discover each other for the first time at summer camp and make a plan to bring their wayward parents back together.
This is based on the 1961 film, and it's directed by Nancy Meyers, who we've talked about before. She's also responsible for The Holiday, which we have an episode on, Father of the Bride, which is one of your favorite movies. I've never seen it, so we're going to have to do an episode on it for sure.
Yeah, we may or may not have something in the works for that.
It's complicated. Something's got to give. The Intern, I mean, we talked about the TikTok phenomenon of saying that you want to be in a Nancy Meyers movie.
And we agree.
Yeah. But what I didn't know is this movie was produced by Charles Shire, who was Nancy's husband at the time. They were a husband-wife duo, and their daughters are named Hallie and Annie.
I love that. That's so cute. I love that they worked together and incorporated the girls' names. I love that.
Yeah, me too. And not only did they incorporate the girls' names, they incorporated the girls because both of them were in the movie. So the real Hallie was a camper, I think she was the one that when they're in the prank cabin scene, I think she was the one with the like shaving cream wig.
This is who I was imagining when you were saying that. Exactly.
Yeah, I think that was her. And then Annie was a little bit older, and so she played an employee at the hotel pool later on in the movie. So I love that.
Love that. This movie came out in 1998. I don't know why in my head. I imagined that it came out early 2000s, but nope, it was in the 90s. And it started filming in London and then was also filmed in a bunch of locations in California. So it's pretty true to where the characters were.
Mm-hmm. We have to talk about Lindsay Lohan, who plays Hallie and Annie. First of all, did you think that Lindsay Lohan had a twin when you were a kid?
No, I did not. Did you?
You didn't? Of course I did. I didn't know who
Oh.
Lindsay Lohan was. My first time seeing Lindsay Lohan ever was in The Parent Trap, and I thought she was a twin. I had no idea until I think later on, probably when more of her movies in the 2000s were coming out, that's when I realized, oh, she's one person. And it was mind-blowing.
No, that's actually fair because I feel like the other big reference point for twins that we would have seen in pop culture would have been Mary-Kate and Ashley from Full House, which are two people. So that's fair.
I didn't know the magic that cameras could do at the time.
No.
But man, did they do magic.
I'm still impressed when I'm watching this. The fact that this is the same person and their acting performances were so good, even though there was only one of them. I can't believe it.
Yeah. I think what makes it more impressive is that she was 11 years old. It was her first movie audition, and within 2 or 3 minutes of screen testing with Dennis Quaid, they knew that she was the one. They knew that she was the one to play both girls.
I can't believe this was her first audition. That's crazy.
I know.
I wonder if we could find it. I would love to see it. I'm sure it's really cute.
Oh my gosh. We should look. Yeah. We'll post it if we find it. And then there were some other famous people who were considered for the role besides her, famous child actors at the time. I actually don't know if all of them were famous at the time, but they're definitely famous now. We had Scarlett Johansson, Mara Wilson, who plays Matilda, Michelle Trachtenberg, who we talked about a lot in our Ice Princess episode, and Jenna Malone from Catching Fire. Do you know who she is?
I don't know if I know who that is.
She's the one who plays Joanna Mason.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I could see that. I could see most of those.
Yeah, me too. I guess Jenna Malone turned it down multiple times. I wonder if she kicks herself for that.
Maybe. I bet she wishes that she did it because I feel like we just haven't seen a lot of her. And I wonder if that would have changed the trajectory of her career.
It might have. Although I cannot imagine The Parent Trap without the iconic red-haired freckled twins.
I know.
I feel like you just didn't see that a whole lot. Like, she really stood out.
Yeah, no, I agree. Lindsay Lohan is iconic in this and she's so adorable. I can't imagine anybody else doing it.
You're probably right. It is probably the one that got away for her, for Jenna.
I'm sure a lot of actors are like that. So something that I read that they had to do while filming is Lindsay would wear an earpiece that would read the other twins' dialogue so that she could respond to it, which I thought was really smart.
That makes sense. Yeah. I'm surprised that they didn't just have someone reading the dialogue.
Yeah, no, same. I would have just thought somebody was standing off camera reading it, but no.
I also think it's interesting how they did this. So I kind of just assumed they did like all of the one twin scenes and then switched to the other twin and did all of those. But then I realized that doesn't really make sense because then they would have to go back to the same sets every time.
Right.
If you remember, Hallie had blue nail polish on. Annie had no nail polish on. They kept having to take on and off Lindsay Lohan's nail polish when she would switch characters.
Wow. I never would have thought about that.
I know. And she said they had to like time how long it took them to get off the nail polish.
And back on. Like,
Yeah.
and then it would have been wet. Yeah, that's actually really funny.
And that was before gel, for sure.
For sure.
And then her double was played by Erin Mackey. I actually did keep trying to spot her throughout the movie. And there was one scene where I noticed her, where you can like actually see her face.
Oh, wow.
It's when they're in the cabin and they're both getting in bed. And I think it's Annie. She pulls the comforter over her face. But you can definitely tell it's not Lindsay Lohan's face. It's Erin Mackey's.
Interesting.
And then did you see the new movie that Lindsay Lohan has coming out in March?
I'm so excited for it.
For those who don't know, it's called Irish Wish. And it looks cute.
It looks cute. I think it's coming out on Netflix.
It's like her Christmas movie that was kind of her big comeback.
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was cute. It wasn't like the best movie ever, but her acting was good in it. So I'm excited for this one.
Me too. I think it'll be cute.
And it gives 13 going on 30 vibes. It's about her wishing that she was married to someone and then learning to be careful what you wish for.
Oh, cute. Then we have Dennis Quaid, who plays Nick Parker. And we talked about this in the When Harry Met Sally episode when we talked about Meg Ryan, but he was married to Meg Ryan. And they have a son. His name is Jack Quaid. Google him, especially if you watch The Boys, because you'll know him. He's the main character in The Boys. And I just watched a movie this weekend called Plus One, and it stars Jack Quaid. And I'm forgetting her name, but she is the lead in the Mr. and Mrs. Smith TV show with Donald Glover.
Oh, yes.
She's the woman that plays Jane Smith. She's the other one in this rom-com with Jack Quaid. And it's actually really funny. It's really good. Brian and I watched it and we both really liked it. So would recommend.
Oh, awesome. I'll have to check it out.
I just kept thinking the whole time how much they look alike. Like Jack and his dad, Dennis. Like, it's crazy. Their facial expressions are exactly the same.
They did this reunion recently with all of the cast of The Parent Trap. And Dennis Quaid said in that interview that he actually thought Lindsay was two girls when he met her for the first time because the accent was so perfect.
That's funny.
So I feel justified in thinking she was also two girls.
Yeah, if Dennis Quaid thought so, then you're okay to think so too. And then we have Natasha Richardson, who plays Elizabeth James. She's so fabulous.
She's so iconic in this movie. I keep seeing her everywhere too. She came from an acting family called the Redgraves, and she married Liam Neeson in 1994.
Wow.
And they had 2 sons. I had no idea. And apparently on set, she would swoon about Liam and her kids.
Aww.
Very cute.
That's very cute.
Unfortunately, I didn't know this. She passed away in 2009 from an accident during a beginner ski lesson.
That's so sad.
Mm-hmm. I had
Ugh.
no idea, but everyone loved working with her, and yeah, she sounds like she was really great.
That's really sad. And then we have Elaine Hendricks, also iconic. She plays Meredith Blake.
She was a model and a professional dancer until 1992.
I believe that.
When she got hit by a car while riding a bike and had to end her modeling and dancing career.
Wow.
Just tragic things happening.
Very tragic.
I know. She also, in that reunion, talked about how at the time Meredith was considered a nightmare, but now people think she's goals.
People do. I feel like that's all over TikTok. Like everybody just being like, looking back, I'm actually the Meredith Blake. Also, her style is incredible.
It is. It is. And at first I was like, I don't blame her. This hot, rich guy, she's going to marry him.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds fine to me. But then she gets pretty unbearable.
Yeah. She's mean to the girls. That's really, I actually think, the only thing that sucks about her.
Yeah. And I'm like, were they mean first? And then I'm like, no, it doesn't matter. They're children. Me trying to be a Meredith Blake apologist.
Yeah.
And then we have Lisa Ann Walter, who plays Chessie.
Love. Jessie is my actual style icon.
Yes.
Love. And she's actually in Abbott Elementary. I know a lot of people are loving that show right now.
I did not recognize her.
Yeah, and she's one of the teachers.
Yeah, I love her character on that show. She looks completely different.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. This is probably the craziest fun fact that I'm going to say. 3 years after they filmed this movie, she had twin boys. And they were born on October 11th, which is the same day as the twins in this movie.
Wow.
What are the odds?
I love that. I love that. Oh, I wish they were girls. And I wish you named them Hallie and Annie.
She would have had to.
That'd be too much.
Yeah, the universe was like, we have to give you boys so it's not too weird.
Yeah. That's very cool, though. That's like, that coincidence is nuts. Should we get into the movie?
Mm-hmm. Let's do it.
So the movie opens on a very romantic night on a cruise ship, and we see someone named Nicholas Parker and someone named Elizabeth James sign a marriage certificate and exchange rings. And they have this like just extremely fabulous candlelit dinner and a night of dancing, and there's fireworks. I'm sure you guys remember there's like lots of shots of like champagne and like their hands, and it's just like very aesthetic. And as the credits are playing during the scene, they say introducing Lindsay Lohan, which I just thought was so cute because like nobody knew who she was before this.
They created a star. They truly did. And then there's on-screen text that says 11 years and 9 months later. And then we're at Camp Walden. There are buses of girls arriving at camp, and they're looking for their bags and piles of duffels. And among them is Hallie Parker, who has a hard time getting her bag out of the pile, but gets help from some new friends. We find out Hallie lives on a vineyard in Napa, and she asks the girls if they know how to play poker and how much cash they brought, which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Also, random fun fact, Kat Graham, who plays Bonnie in The Vampire Diaries, we love her.
Love.
This was her first role, was in this movie. She plays a camper.
I did not even notice. I didn't see her at all.
Oh, if you look it up, you'll be like, oh my gosh, she's so cute. She's just adorable. She's tiny.
I love her. I'm going to look after this.
Also, there's a little boy in this scene who doesn't realize that it's a girls' camp. And that's kind of a gag throughout the rest of the movie, is that he wants to go home, but he can't. He's played by Lindsay's real-life brother, Michael.
Aw. Oh, I love that. That's cute. So then a fancy black car pulls up and Annie gets out and she's giving Samantha the American Girl doll in her little plaid set.
I love Samantha.
I know. That was mine. She was my doll.
Oh, mine was Kit.
Oh, love. And she has a British accent and she traveled to camp with her butler, Martin, which everything about this, I'm just like, I didn't recognize how weird and like rich person behavior this is until I was like writing it. And Martin gives her a new deck of cards from her grandfather so that she can play poker over the summer, which this is the first similarity we're seeing between the girls, other than the fact that they look the same. And then they do the handshake. You guys know the handshake.
Iconic.
Iconic. I thought about actually doing this handshake with my dad before our father-daughter dance at the wedding.
Aww.
And then I realized that she does it with her butler and like it's not like Hallie and Nick. And so anyway, I didn't do it, but.
Oh, but that's a really cute idea though.
Thanks.
Somebody
else
steal
do that. Yeah.
Martin is played by Simon Coons, who originally auditioned for the photographer, who has one line and is only in one scene. And then Nancy Myers and the producer asked him to come back and audition for Martin. They kind of looked at him and were like, no, you need something bigger.
He was perfect in the role, so I'm so glad they did that.
Yeah. And also Simon and Lindsay came up with the handshake themselves.
Cute.
They knew there was going to be one, and then they spent about 2 or 3 hours making it up.
Cute.
Which I love.
I love that.
So they probably got excited every time they got to film it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Throughout their time at camp, the girls have some near run-ins. For example, in the lunch line, they're both standing next to the camp director, and they each tell her that they're allergic to strawberries. And she's like turning her head back and forth, but she's separating them. So they don't see each other, but she's very confused. And then we get to the part where the girls fence each other, which I'm like, is this a normal camp activity? To be like fencing with swords? That feels weird. But anyway, they're both very good. And they don't see each other at first, obviously, because of the masks. But eventually, at the end of their match, the girls have to come face to face to shake hands. And they both look surprised, but Hallie does this, and this is like indicative of Hallie's personality, I feel like. Hallie pretends not to notice that they look exactly alike. I think Annie even says, like, don't you see the resemblance? And Hallie lists all the ways they look different to like try to be rude to Annie. And then we get the iconic line where Hallie says, want to know the real difference between us? And Annie cuts in and says, let me see, I know how to fence and you don't, or I have class and you don't. Take your pick.
Burn.
Ooh.
Also, how are they both really good at fencing?
So weird.
Are their parents both fencers?
It's like such a bizarre thing for them to both have picked up.
The camp counselor in this scene, or maybe she's like a director or junior director, is played by Maggie Wheeler, who is Janice in Friends. Have you gotten that far in Friends yet?
No.
Okay, my Friends people will know exactly who she is, but if you need a reminder, she's Chandler's on-again, off-again girlfriend that he can't shake, and she has this annoying laugh and very high-pitched, whiny voice in the show. So I loved seeing her in this. It was so fun.
That's cool.
So this whole rude scene starts a feud between the girls, and one night Annie is beating all the girls in a poker game in one of the cabins, and Hallie comes in with a bag of coins, and she says, I'll take a whack at it. And the girls make a deal. The loser has to jump in the lake, butt naked. And then Hallie wins, and so Annie, I will say, very bravely jumps into the lake, and Hallie and the other girls take her clothes and run away, and it's so rude.
Rude. So sad.
It's giving, The Summer I Turned Pretty. There's a scene like that.
Or what's the movie that we covered with Jennifer Lawrence? Our first episode.
No Hard Feelings.
No Hard Feelings.
Yeah.
The iconic scene where kids take their clothes.
I guess this is a trope. This has never happened to me, but...
No. If it's happened to you, I'm so sorry, listener.
Yeah, so mean.
And so then the next day, somehow, Annie puts all the furniture from Hallie's cabin on the roof with an English flag.
How did she get everything on the roof? That's what I was wondering.
Absolutely no idea.
Like, we're talking bunk beds on the roof.
All the furniture from the cabin. And this is like cabin furniture. If you guys have been to a cabin, you know the furniture is 1,000 pounds. Yeah.
I don't know how she did it. Magic. And that night, Hallie and her friends prank Annie's cabin. And I will say this is one of the things that I remember most about this movie from being a kid. I loved this scene.
Same.
They put honey on one of the girls. They put shaving cream on another. They pour oil on the ground to make it all slippery. And then they rig this vat of chocolate above the door, like a big, big bucket. And in the morning, the girls wake up in total chaos. This huge water balloon falls on Annie, and Hallie and her friends watch from the window. It's so mean and so gross.
Yeah, it's so
sticky.
Gross. Yeah.
I guess they put a small needle in Lindsay's double's hair to make sure the balloon popped for this scene.
Oh my God, that sounds dangerous.
It was tiny, I'm sure.
And then Marva, the camp director, conducts a surprise inspection and starts with Annie's cabin. And Hallie obviously doesn't want Marva to go in and find out what she did. And so she runs in front of Marva to block the door. And she says someone got sick and it's a big mess, which obviously only makes Marva, the camp director, want to go inside more because she's supposed to be there to help the kids. As she's about to go in, we see the big bucket of chocolate hanging above the door. And then Annie comes to the door from inside and tells Marva to come on in and see what's going on for herself because she wants Hallie to get in trouble. And Marva does, and she gets covered in chocolate, and she slides all the way through the cabin, and then the fan turns on, and it sprinkles feathers all over everybody.
It's terrible, but funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm also, like, very impressed.
This is an impressive setup for an 11-year-old.
Almost as impressive as putting all the furniture on the roof.
Yeah.
So Marva tells Hallie and Annie to pack their bags, and the girls get marched out to the isolation cabin. And I was just thinking the whole time, how is it allowed that two girls are allowed to just be alone in a cabin for I don't know how long?
In the middle of the woods.
Like, what if they kill each other?
I know.
They're angry at each other. What if they hurt each other? I don't know. What if something happens?
As far as we know, we don't see any adults come out there. They don't go to any activities. Like,
it's weird. It's super weird. It's abusive, actually.
Yeah, I don't like it. If you guys were camp girls, was this a thing? Please let us know. I went to camp one time and I hated it. I wrote my mom letters the entire time asking her to come pick me up.
How long was it?
It was like a week.
Oh,
But I could not do it. The separation anxiety was not for me.
Well, I never went to camp, so I have no idea.
So we don't know. But if you guys went to camp, was the isolation cabin a thing? Please tell us. So in the isolation cabin, the wind starts blowing and it's blowing Hallie's photos and her things everywhere. And so Annie helps her close it and pick her things up, including her stuffed animal, Cuppy, who comes back later. And we can tell this is a big turning point for the girls because this is the first time they've like worked together and like had to help each other. And it kind of changes their relationship.
Yeah, I love this part. The girls start bonding and talking about where they're from. And Hallie mentions that she lives with her dad, and Annie gets upset because she doesn't know her father. And Hallie offers her Oreos, and they discover that they both eat them with peanut butter. Cute.
This is one of the main things I remember from watching this as a kid, that I always wanted to eat Oreos with peanut butter. I don't know if I ever even did after this because I thought it was cool.
Honestly, I think that sounds really good. It's a little weird. I actually kind of want to try that now.
Me too.
And they also find out that they'll both be 12 on October 11th. So at this point, I'm like, all right, girls, you know what this means.
Yeah, I know. I know. And so then Annie asks Hallie what her mom is like, and she says she didn't grow up with a mom. And we can tell that Annie is putting this together. Hallie is not, but Annie is dialed in. And then they each find out that they only have half a picture of their mom and dad. And so the girls decide to show each other the photos to see if it is the other person's parent. And they do, and the pictures fit together. And this is another one of the slow-mo moments in the movie where like the pictures come together to make one. And there's the iconic quote, "So if your mom is my mom and my dad is your dad, and we were both born on October 11th, then we're sisters." And Annie says, "Sisters? Hallie, we're like twins." Again, Annie is with it. Hallie is space cadet in this whole scene.
Did you have a favorite twin growing up?
Oh, probably Annie.
Mine was Hallie. I feel like this explains a lot, actually.
Yeah.
This tracks for our personalities.
Yeah.
Then they show each other their matching lockets. They each have a locket that has their initial on it that they got when they were babies. And they spend all night talking about their parents, including that Annie's mom is a wedding gown designer and the fact that neither of their parents ever remarried. And then Hallie gets a great idea. They should switch places when they leave camp so they get a chance to meet their other parent. Plus, if they switch, their parents will have to meet again face to face to switch them back. So I do like at least they're kind of grounded in reality a little bit here, where they're like, okay, we can't keep up the charade forever, nor do we want to, but when we do get caught, you know, our parents will have to meet.
And so the girls agree to do it, and then they start teaching each other about their lives back home, which I always love this because they're going over like the floor plans, what they call everybody, when they eat in the dining room. It's just very cute. And then Hallie cuts Annie's hair. I feel like this is another iconic scene, the hair and the ear piercing. After they cut Annie's hair, Hallie realizes that she has pierced ears, so they'll have to pierce Annie's ears too. And at first, Annie refuses, but then Hallie tells her the whole thing will be for nothing because she can't show up to camp with earrings and leave without them. So Annie reluctantly agrees, and Hallie sterilizes a needle with the match. And Annie's numbing her ear with an ice cube, and then she does it. She pierces her ears, and they both scream.
I remember this scene so well, too.
Oh, same.
Also, to me, I'm like, Hallie, girl, your dad is never going to notice. He's never going to notice she doesn't have earrings. Chessie might, so fair, but not your dad. He kind of doesn't notice anything.
Yeah. I also feel like I would have been able to, like, lie at that age and been like, oh, I took them out when I got to camp because we weren't allowed to wear them, and then they closed up, which, like, is not how earrings work. Like, you definitely would still have the hole. You'd be able to see it, but I feel like I would have thought I could get away with that.
Yeah, probably. The 12-year-old logic, for sure.
Yeah.
And I guess this ear piercing scene was removed in the UK. So our UK listeners, tell us, did you know this scene existed? Have you ever seen that scene?
Oh, this is
I'm
important.
So curious.
This is important. Yeah.
This was iconic. And then later it was also removed from Disney Channel. And it was to discourage kids from copying.
Oh.
Which is fair, I guess.
That's fair. People would. I wanted to. I remember being like, that would be so fun. No, it wouldn't. It would not have been fun. It would have been a disaster, but...
Totally, I wanted to. So it's time for everyone to leave camp and say goodbye, and the girls agree to find out more about their parents' relationship and to call each other. And Hallie runs off to her car, and she's off. I do find it interesting that Martin didn't come to pick her up, even though he dropped her off, but I guess it's different. Like, he wanted to make sure she settled into camp okay.
Yeah, I agree, though. I thought the same thing. But we do see Martin at the airport to pick up Hallie, disguised as Annie. This is going to be a theme for the rest of the recap, just so you know. Hallie is the one that's actually in London, and Annie is the one that's actually in California, because they've swapped. And they do the handshake, and it goes over great. And then, this is also an iconic scene to me. There She Goes. You know that song? There she goes. Plays as they're driving home through London, and it just feels like very fabulous. Like, we see all the sights. It's so cute. And then when they get to her house, she gets out of the car alone, which to me, I was like, where is Martin? Martin is gone. Martin picked her up from the airport, but Martin is not in the car when they get home,
Oh, no.
Confused. That feels like maybe just a goof. And then she walks inside, and the house is stunning.
Stunning.
Goals.
And then she meets her grandfather, and you can tell she, like, takes a guess. She's like, grandfather?
Yeah.
Also, her being able to pull off the British accent, too, as a character, I thought was great. Because what if her accent was just really, really bad, and that's what ruined the whole thing? And her grandfather is so excited to see her. It's really cute. And you can tell Hallie just kind of loves meeting this new family member. Then she sees her mom, and they run to each other and hug. And Hallie's crying because this is the first time she's met her mom. Then her mom notices her haircut and her ear piercing and seems to be totally cool with it.
And while they're having tea, Martin comes in and says he found a stowaway. It's Cuppy.
Cuppy.
And Hallie freaks out because this is her little baby stuffed animal. And she says, oh, don't worry, I'll mail it to my camp friend because she could never, you know, be in a foreign country without him. I thought that was funny.
And then her mom says they have to go to the studio for her brand's photo shoot. Here Comes the Sun plays. In the photo shoot, they notice that the veil is covering the back of the dress and they want to be able to show it off better. So her mom asks Hallie to pass her one of the hats from the display to make the veil a little bit higher. And they put the veil on top of the hat and continue the photo shoot. And the photos turn out really good. And Hallie gets to be in some of them. And she just thinks her mom is the coolest, which I do too.
Mm-hmm. Same.
And the dresses were actually Vera Wang.
Oh.
Not Elizabeth James.
That's fun. And after the shoot, she asked her mom about her dad and how they met and whether it was love at first sight. And her mom is just like confused about this sudden curiosity about her dad, because you can tell he just has never been part of their life or really their conversations.
Meanwhile, Nick, played by Dennis Quaid, is waiting for Annie, who's disguised as Hallie, at the Napa airport. And he immediately senses that something's changed, and he jokingly asks if she's gotten taller. And in the car, she calls her friend a lovely girl and calls her nail biting a horrid habit. And he's like, when did you get so proper?
Yeah. I always think it's funny that Hallie's family seems to pick up on it right away. Like, you're being weird. But Annie's family is just like having a ball.
Yeah, that is interesting because you would think that Hallie would have the British accent thing. She'd have a harder time fitting in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so they get to the Parker's house, which is also stunning. Stunning. Like, they drive through this vineyard. It's so beautiful. And when they get there, Chessie runs out to greet her. And she says she made cornbread and chili because it's her favorite. And then Sammy the dog, who's this adorable golden retriever, runs up to her and barks at her. And Chessie makes a comment that it's like he didn't even recognize her at all.
And then her dad says there's someone he wants her to meet. And Chessie tells Annie about Meredith Blake while they unpack. She's supposedly doing PR for the vineyard, but has started seeing Nick, like seeing him. And Chessie thinks Meredith is only interested for his money. This is the part where I was like, no, Chessie. Dennis Quaid is hot.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree.
It's not just his money.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's funny as a kid, because when I watched this as a kid, I was like, these are both adults. Like,
I was not thinking they were attractive.
No, at all, not at all. But also, like, I wasn't thinking that she would be with him for his money. Yeah. I was just like, oh, they're grown-ups dating. Like, the age gap, no questions.
Same. Yeah, same, because everyone is old to you at that age.
Right. And so Annie goes down to the pool to meet Meredith, and she asks Meredith how old she is, and Meredith says 26, which is young.
Oh my gosh. That's
younger
young.
than us.
She's more fabulous, I guess.
Yeah, she is. She's so fabulous. And to me in this moment, I was like, she is giving Carly Kloss.
Yeah, I see it.
Like tall, leggy, blonde, especially when Carly had her short hair. Like I'm thinking in the 1989 era.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, that's the vibes to me.
I love that. And we can tell that Annie and Meredith already hate each other. Annie says to Meredith that compared to the others, she's pretty normal, and says that Meredith is number 29 in her dad's life. So she started it.
Mm-hmm. She definitely started it. And she's very, like, astute for being that young.
Totally.
And for being out of place, because to me, Hallie was always, like, the slightly more outspoken one.
Mm-hmm.
But then for Annie to, like, immediately jump to, I'm going to make this girl so uncomfortable that she breaks up with my dad, was really funny.
True. Yeah, she immediately was protective over him, which I like.
And then that night, Annie calls Hallie in England to tell her about Meredith. And Hallie tells her to sabotage it and break them up because she's not ready to come home yet.
Yeah, Hallie's having a blast in England.
Yeah, I can't blame her.
The next morning, Chessie makes Annie a bunch of options for breakfast and is suspicious when Annie doesn't want to eat anything again because she didn't really eat the chili and cornbread either. And then she also asks about her mysterious midnight phone call, but Annie makes up an excuse and goes to see her dad.
So then when she goes to see her dad, Annie tries to get him to talk about her mom, and she keeps saying, I need a mother, which ends up totally working against her because Nick says, I know, that's why I wanted to talk to you about Meredith. And so they ride horses through the vineyard, and Nick starts to tell her that he's interested in staying with Meredith and like being with her long term. But Annie just rides away with her horse just to get away from the conversation.
Again, astute for an 11-year-old.
Very.
So Annie runs into the house and starts rambling to herself about how she can't handle this and she's just a kid. And she's speaking in her English accent. Come to find out, Chessie is in the room and asks about all of the things that have seemed different about Hallie since she got back from camp. And she says, if I didn't know any better, it's almost as if you were, forget about it. And Annie says, almost as if I were Annie. And then Chessie goes, you know about Annie? Annie says, I am Annie. And this part is so cute. This is the best part of the whole movie, hands down.
I agree, because this is the reveal. This is really the only reveal that we get. And then Nick comes in and asks Chessie why she's looking at Hallie like that. And Chessie is so emotional. And it's just, you guys will remember this. She's just like, can I hug her? I think she's also, when Nick is like, why are you looking at her like that? I think she's just like, why am I looking at her like that? This is always how I've looked at her since she was born, 7 pounds, 9 ounces, or whatever. She says she wants to make her something special, and that she's just going to whip up everything they've got. It's very cute.
It's so sweet. I love this. And then Nick finally sits Annie down and asks about adding Meredith to the family. And she says, I've always wanted a big sister.
Just roasting him for dating a younger girl.
R.I.P. Nick. Completely. And his face is just like, no.
I feel like this entire plot is actually just for the adults watching the movie because it's so funny.
It's hilarious. It was a really good watch as an adult for sure. And Nick's like, no, I want to marry her. And Annie freaks out and starts speaking French and says he can't get married because it will ruin everything. And he's like, are you speaking French right now? And somehow it still has not clicked to this man what has happened.
I was a little bit surprised by this because it seems very clear that Annie knows what's going on, but then she freaks out when Nick actually says that he wants to get married. Do you think that's just because he's actually verbalizing it? Because I was surprised that she freaked out.
Yeah, maybe she was in denial.
Yeah.
And then she thought maybe her saying she wanted a big sister would deter him, but then he said it anyway. I don't know. It was kind of strange, though. I felt the same.
Yeah. So anyway, Meredith pulls up in her cute little car, and she comes up to Nick and says that he looks stressed. And then she pulls out a bell to call Chessie to get them martinis.
No.
Which I cannot.
No, ma'am.
This was so rude.
So rude. I can't believe Chessie didn't just like tell her off there. Or Nick. I can't believe Nick didn't tell her off and be like, no, we don't do that in our house.
Yeah.
Chessie's family, you know?
Yeah, I hated it. This actually was maybe the most irredeemable thing that Meredith does in the entire movie.
And then Meredith goes to talk to Annie and tells her that one day she'll understand love. And Annie says, marriage is supposed to be based on something other than just sex, right? Which again, wow.
She's quick.
She is.
Back in London, Hallie asks for a sip of wine, and then she describes how it tastes, because she was actually raised on a vineyard. And this, I just rolled my eyes, because this is such oldest daughter behavior. Like, I was so embarrassed for her, but I'm like, this is some shit that I would have done, totally.
Oh, totally. The aerating the wine and like sniffing it beforehand and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
She was showing off for sure.
Yeah. And then she sees Martin carrying a piece of paper behind his back that has a drawing of a dog and 911. And she falls out of her chair when she's looking at it. And this is because she knows that it's coming from Annie, because the dog is supposed to be Sammy.
It was faxed, which I forgot about fax machines.
Same.
So Hallie runs to a phone booth and calls Annie, who tells her that their dad is getting married in 2 weeks. And Hallie says she'll tell her mom, and as she's leaving the phone booth, she runs into her grandfather. And he takes her on a walk around the park, and she tells him the truth. Which I love that she was about to come clean anyway. Like, shit's about to hit the fan, and she's like, okay, I am having my dream life right now, but I am so willing to, like, cut the charades and get home.
Mm-hmm. And I love that she talks to her grandfather. It's really cute.
Mm-hmm. So just like how now Chessie knows, now the grandfather knows, and so they each have someone on their team.
Mm-hmm.
So when they get home, he encourages her to tell her mom, and she climbs in her mom's bed covers. This scene is iconic, too. So she's hiding under the covers, and she says that she has to go see Annie, and her mom is like, you are Annie. And she's like, no, Annie's in Napa with her father, Nick Parker. And Liz is shocked, but then she goes, Hallie, and pulls off the covers and like sees her daughter actually for the first time. And she tells her she has loved her for her whole life. And it's just so sweet. I love this part so much.
Me too.
Before we get into the rest, though, can we just take a pause to talk about what the fuck is this arrangement.
I know. This is the fatal flaw of the movie. It's just like, how could two parents separate twins and then never, even like selfishly for themselves, to not want to ever see the other child is wild to me.
I think it's so weird. I think it's like, why would you never want to meet one of your kids? Wouldn't you always feel like you were missing something?
Absolutely.
It's very weird. No, I don't know any parent who would be like, yeah, I'll just give one away.
Yeah, we have two babies. She's carried them for 9 months. And then we also find out later she kind of leaves on a whim. So like to do that and be like, I'm taking one of them. You keep the other. Bye.
How
See you
did
never.
they choose? The eeny, meeny, miny, mo?
I have no idea. It's crazy to me.
It really bothers me. And I'm someone who comes from a home of separated parents who did have kind of a unique situation. But still, like, I saw both of my parents. I don't understand.
Yeah. And imagine if you had a twin that you never knew you had.
And if they just kept one of them, bye.
Bye. No.
But anyway, suspending our disbelief here and pretending that we still think they're really good parents for this, Liz tells Hallie that she'll take care of everything and they'll go to Napa.
So then we see the scene of Liz freaking out about seeing Nick again, which relatable. And she keeps saying, like, I'm not mature enough for this. If the man didn't make me so nuts, I'd still be married to him. And she's like walking around frantically with a roller in her hair. You guys will remember the scene, smoking a cigarette, just like freaking out. And I think Hallie comes in and makes a comment about how her mom hasn't even packed yet, even though they need to leave. And so in her like frantic state, she asks Martin to come on the trip just as a friend so that she has somebody else there to help. And he's so excited. This is like Martin's time to shine.
Mm-hmm.
I think he makes some comment about like, if I was seeing my ex after 11 years and I had your legs, this is what I'd wear. And he pulls this little black dress out of her closet and it's gorgeous.
It is. Also, doesn't he come out of the house wearing like, this whole time he's been in a uniform and now he comes out of the house and he's wearing a leather jacket and sunglasses and he looks so cool.
Yeah.
Truly is his time to shine. At the hotel in San Francisco, Meredith has brought her parents to meet Nick. And they're very proper, and they're already making jokes about Nick's money. Nick, Chessie, and Annie show up to meet them, and now we know that they have no idea that Liz and Hallie are coming. I love this fact. I had no idea, but Meredith's mom was played by Joanna Barnes, who played the evil girlfriend character in the original Parent Trap.
Wow. Oh, I love that.
And then came back to play her mom in this one.
I love that.
And in the original, it wasn't Meredith. Her name was Vicky. And so Meredith's mom is named Vicky.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's so cute.
Oh, that's really good. So then Liz pulls up to the hotel and she gets out of the car so drunk, like falling over wasted. And a couple times throughout the movie, they make comments about how she doesn't really drink.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like, you can tell she's like losing her mind. And then Liz, Hallie, and Martin walk through the lobby. And Annie, because the other family is also there, lets go of Sammy the dog's leash, and he runs right up to Hallie in the elevator because like that's his girl, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And Liz accidentally tells Annie, who's standing with Chessie, to meet her upstairs. So the girls, and they're wearing very similar things, so the girls are getting confused by everyone because they're all in the same place. And then she sees Nick in the elevator with Meredith as the elevator doors are closing, and he looks shocked, bewildered, stunned to see her. And it's obvious that he had no idea she was coming.
It's like he saw a ghost when he sees Liz, honestly.
Yeah.
And she just kind of awkwardly waves.
Yeah, she's just like smiling, waving.
Back upstairs at the hotel, Liz sees both girls together for the first time, and she's overwhelmed, but then she gets upset because now she knows that Nick had no idea she was coming. And she's also like, and you just let me like stand there stupidly waving at him, you know? And while she's getting upset, Martin walks by in a Speedo. Which is so funny. The actor said that he kept trying to put props in front of himself during that scene.
That's funny.
And Chessie comes out at the same time. They immediately like each other and flirt. And then Liz asks if everyone knows something that she doesn't. And the girls admit that they brought her here because their dad is getting married to Meredith, who they think is horrible. And Liz says that she and Nick Parker have nothing in common and that she expects the girls to tell him she's only there to switch the girls back.
And they don't, obviously, because that would ruin the plan. And so when Nick goes down to the lobby, he runs into both girls on his way at different times, once before the elevator, once after the elevator. And he's a little bit confused, but he's, I think, so distracted by the fact that he saw Liz, which feels like this should be context clues, but whatever. Mm-hmm. It goes right over his head.
Like I said, he would not notice the earrings.
No, absolutely not.
And then Liz sits at the bar alone, drinking a hangover tonic, and Meredith is sitting down the bar from her. And when Liz signs her check, Meredith sees her signature. And at first, she was kind of being rude to Liz. But the second she sees her signature, she goes, "Are you Elizabeth James, the wedding designer?" Because she wants one of her dresses.
And so at the same time, we see Nick run into Meredith's parents, who tell him that the hotel is perfect for the wedding. So we find out that's actually the reason they were there, is for everybody to meet and for them to check it out as a venue. But then Nick sees Liz and is immediately distracted. He sees her across the pool. And he's trying to make his way to her, but then he runs into a waiter and gets spun around and falls into the pool and makes a big splash. It's really funny. And when he swims across the pool and gets out and he gets to her, he asks what's going on, but then both girls come out and say they can explain. So this is the moment that Nick actually clicks what's going on. And Liz tells him that the girls switched places on them after camp. And then he hugs Hallie and she asks how he ever let their mom go. So the plan is afoot.
And then Liz and Nick get a moment alone to talk, but Meredith comes up to them and explains that Elizabeth is making her wedding gown. And there's this whole confusing moment where she's like, "Wait, but how do you know Elizabeth?"
Yeah.
And then both girls come up to them and Meredith finds out that Hallie is a twin, which is her worst nightmare, that there's two of them, and that Elizabeth James is their mom. So oof.
Oof is right. That night, the girls plan a surprise for their parents, and they bring them to this stunning yacht for a romantic dinner for two. And on the yacht, Chessie is their server and Martin is their sommelier. And Nick is like, oh, they're recreating the night they met. And this is my question, because they're clearly recreating the scene on the boat that we saw at the very beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Which was their wedding. So does that mean that they got married the same day that they met?
Wait, didn't they meet on a cruise?
I think so.
Did they get married at the end of the cruise?
Maybe.
Was it really quick?
Maybe.
Like a week or something? That'd be crazy, actually. But would explain a lot.
That would be crazy. But yeah, it would explain a lot. They separated, obviously, I think right after the twins were born. So then they weren't together for very long. I don't know. I just caught that and I was like, not recreating their wedding, recreating the night they met. But that looks the same, so I don't know.
Interesting. I don't know. And then they talk about their work and what they're going to do about the girls and their breakup. And Nick says they decided on their arrangement because she didn't want to see him again. And she explains that they both had tempers and were so young, and when she left, she thought that he'd come after her, but that it didn't matter anymore. So she did one of those, I'm going to run away and see if he really cares by following me. And then he was like, I didn't know you wanted me to come after you.
I know. And so the next morning when they check out, they agree to send the girls to each other for holidays. And the girls come downstairs with a plan, a new plan. They say that they want to stay in California in order to go on their annual camping trip. And they're wearing the same thing so their parents can't tell who is who, so that Liz can't bring one of them on her flight, which is very sneaky.
I feel like it is kind of weird that they can't tell who is who or check their lockets or something.
I agree. I know some identical twins, and you can tell them apart, so
you totally can, especially if you're their mom, I would assume.
Yeah.
And you've never seen one of them before.
Yeah, exactly.
The girls win, and we see Nick packing the car, and Meredith is complaining about him leaving to go camping, and she's even more upset when she sees that Liz is going on the camping trip too, because that was part of the deal, is that the parents would get to go camping with the girls all together as a family. And Liz gets the idea to insist that Meredith comes. However, when they finish packing the car, Liz says that she's staying home so that Meredith can really get to know the girls before the wedding.
Smooth move by mom.
Truly.
And while they're hiking, Meredith is really struggling, partially because of all the things the girls are doing. So Hallie is putting rocks in her backpack and a lizard on her water bottle. And all of it just makes Meredith freak out, especially the lizard. After she freaks out, instead of putting the lizard on the ground, Hallie puts it in her hair, and it crawls into Meredith's mouth, which I just hate. It makes me scream.
Isn't that another iconic scene, though? I always remember that one, and for some reason, I thought that this camping trip was in the middle or at the beginning of the movie because of how well I remembered it, but it wouldn't have made sense with the timeline. But I kept waiting for this scene, and then it was like at the very end. I was like, oh, huh.
Yeah, I always forget about the camping trip. For some reason, to me, it's like an afterthought of the like main plot.
Really?
Yeah, but I do always remember the freaking lizard in her mouth. I hate it. And she also finds out that the bug spray the girls gave her is actually sugar water. So they've just been like setting her up to fail for this entire trip. And this was confusing to me. I swear on this hike, they were both speaking in an American accent.
Really?
So if any of you guys rewatch this, I need you to validate or tell me that I'm crazy. Because the whole time I was watching it, I was like, I couldn't tell who was who. And I was trying to figure it out. But then I realized they were both speaking with an American accent. So I don't know.
It was really hard to tell who was who in that scene. I think I just like turned my brain off and stopped trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
At that point, they were just a unit to me.
Yeah.
And that night, the girls sneak into Meredith's tent and they drag her air mattress out onto the lake.
This is dangerous.
Totally. What if she drowned?
I know. That's what I was thinking. Like, they dragged her out there because she took a sleeping pill. But I'm like, you cannot put a sleeping person on a sleeping pill on a body of water.
Yeah, what if she rolled over?
And died, yeah.
Yeah, that's so bad.
Yeah, this is my dark anxiety brain going. Worst case scenario.
No, it's fair. I think we both do that with everything. That's what we did in Ice Princess too. We were like, not the Zamboni on the pond.
We're like, death trap, death trap, death trap.
It's us in real life too. It's fine.
It's true. So then Meredith wakes up on the water with a bird on top of her. She falls in the water and storms up the beach to Nick. And she tells him that once they're married, she's going to ship the brats off to Switzerland. And then she tells him that he needs to pick her or them. And instantly, he's like, them.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Never ask someone to choose you or their child.
No.
Bye.
Although I was surprised how quickly he was like, them. And then he makes a comment very shortly after, being like, yeah, I think they did me a favor. I'm like, you were going to marry her, like, next week. Like, absolutely just throws it out the window, doesn't care.
Yeah, that was quick. Maybe her red flags had finally caught up to him.
Yeah, he just realized it was never going to work.
And he's still in love with Liz, obviously.
Yeah.
So when they get home, the girls are grounded until the end of the century, which I thought was hilarious because I forgot this is the 90s. And then Nick says to Liz, what you said, I gotta thank them one day. And Nick asks where Chessie is, and Liz says that Chessie and Martin went on a picnic at noon yesterday.
Ooh. While they're at Nick's house, Nick brings Liz down to his cellar to see his wine collection, and he has this special cabinet where he only keeps a few bottles of wine, and one of them is the wine from their wedding. And he says, I think this is the cutest thing, he says it took him forever to track it down, and now he owns every bottle ever made.
That's wild. That's actually truly wild.
I know. I'm like, he always loved her, but never called his daughter once.
Never called his daughter, never called her to try to get back together with her, and never went to go after her.
Shocking. But tracked down every bottle of wine from their wedding.
This is like the opposite of if he wanted to, he would. This is like he's delusional and thinks that it's like Noah building that whole house instead of just communicating.
Yes, the men of the 90s and early 2000s were men of action, not men of words, I guess.
Okay, interesting.
Although not action like going to the airport, like collecting the wine. Whatever. We're ruining this as we like rehash it.
We'll stop.
Because when I watched this, I was like, this is so cute. I love it. Ugh. Anyway.
Don't bring logic to a nostalgic movie.
No, I know. It's not worth it. So she asks if they can open one of the bottles, and he says that she's the only one he'd ever drink it with. And then they're about to kiss. But they hear a car pull up, and it's Chessie coming home, and Liz backs away from him, and he puts the wine away.
Sad.
Sad.
And the next day, it's pouring rain. Annie says goodbye to Nick, and Hallie says goodbye to Liz. And then the girls say goodbye to each other. And then they part ways. It's very sad.
And then Liz, Annie, and Martin are back in London, and when they get to the house, Liz goes to the study to look for her father, and instead, she finds Hallie. And Hallie says, it took us about 30 seconds after you guys left to realize we don't want to lose you again. And I think Liz says, us, like, because Hallie was speaking plural. And Nick comes out and agrees, and he says he made the mistake of not going after her once, and he's never going to do it again. And she says, she goes off on this whole like tangent about like, what do you expect? Like a bicontinental relationship, blah, 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 us growing old together. Like, how could that ever work? And then she finally says, what do you expect, Nick? Happily ever after? And he says, yes. And they kiss.
Yay.
He doesn't say yes like that, obviously, but
yay, he finally went after her. And then while the credits play, we see photos from their second wedding, and it's very reminiscent of the first. And then we see that Martin proposes to Chessie, so happily ever after.
I know. I'm happy that they were together, but douchebag move to propose at somebody else's wedding.
Yeah, I'm not into that.
I'm not into that.
Why do I feel like that was a trope in movies, though?
Oh, maybe it is. And that's the end.
Yay. It was so good.
So good. Like, cannot recommend a rewatch of this enough.
Same. And in 2019, a reboot was announced. This is a reboot I could get behind, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're tired of reboots right now, but I would love to see this again. Although I don't know if anyone could compare to Lindsay Lohan in my mind, but it was announced for Disney Plus, and there's been no news on it since 2019. So I don't know if they just put it on the back burner, if it's canceled, if they'll ever pick it up again, but I hope they do.
I hope they do. Maybe it was just the pandemic and then the strike, but maybe they'll pick it back up this year. I really hope so.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll have to see. It would be great if Lindsay Lohan had a cameo in it.
That would be cute. Maybe Lindsay Lohan could be the camp director. That would be cute.
That would be cute.
Yay. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed, please leave us a 5-star rating and a good review. It really means a lot to us. We are still pretty new, and we love interacting with you guys and seeing what you think about the podcast and hearing your requests for different movies. It really means a lot to us.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.